Okay, now that we've got our island drawn up with creeks and trees and some labels, you'll want to do a little bit more of this, and feel free to play around as much as you like. But now we need to do a layout so we can bring this into a report. So to do a layout, we go to Insert, New Layout. Now there's a bunch of standardized ones, but notice they're all full pages. And what I want to do is I want to put this into a report. So I'm going to do a custom page size. And I want to make that size 6 by 4. And when I click OK, it's going to create a new layout. Now notice we've still got our map here, and there's our new layout. And this is a page. Effectively, you can think of it as a page. You could do a full page one, but again, with reports, we tend to do smaller ones. That's what we want to do. And now I have map frame. So in the Insert menu, I can now put my map frame. Here's some default ones, but there's our map frame. Okay, and now I need to draw it, and there's our map, our data. Okay, now it's got some issues. There's some things we need to fix. First one being, if I double click on it or go right click and do properties, it's going to bring up the properties for our map frame. Now the first things I want to do is I want to make it fit within my page. So I'm going to change this to 6 by 4, and then I'm going to make the position of it 0, 0. Ta-da! And now it fits perfectly within our 4 by 6 page. Next thing is to get rid of this really ugly text along the bottom, which is credits for this background. Now you need to put that into your report somewhere, but we don't want it in our maps because yuck. And this is one of the areas where I highly recommend you have some kind of notes, either on paper or I do it just in Notepad for things like this that otherwise you'd never find, because I had to go to Google and find it, and the way you find it is by going to Insert tab, Text box, Dynamic Text, Service Layer Credits. Obviously. And then, because you can't right click on it and delete it, that doesn't work. And then it doesn't suddenly appear, you've got to click to get them to appear, and it removes it from the map and puts it here, and then I can drag it out of the way. Now again, I'd copy this and put it into my report later. Okay, so the other thing we need to fix is these labels, because these are part of the background and they just don't look good, and quite often they will be cut off, which I will mark you down for because it's simply not acceptable. So we need to go back to our map. We want to change this background, which I can do in Map, Base Map, and just do the regular imagery instead of the one with labels. Great, we're good to go. And by the way, please don't use topographic or streets or another one, because you can see it has all these little tiny labels that are cut off, and that's just not good. Imagery works, and we'll also show you how to make your own backgrounds in this class in the future. Okay, now we go back to layout. You'll see, oh look, it's got our labels gone, and you'll switch back and forth quite a bit. You don't have to do that a lot, but it tends to be handy to do. So the other thing we want to do is fix this text, because that's just too big. In the map view, it looked fine, right? But we've changed our extent, our scale here. So we need to fix that. So we can go to, whoops, right click, labeling properties, and let's see, symbol, and there's our label size. And we can crank that down quite a bit, click apply. That looks pretty good. My halo looks a little heavy. I don't know, this one's not entirely inside the island, which it really should be. But also, let's size our island, because it's looking a little small. We want to have it fill most of our map. Now, that's one of the things it'll take a little bit getting comfortable with, is right now I have a select tool. So I can select things, but I can't even drag my layout around. If you go to layout, you'll see there's navigation tools. Clicking on this big one is what lets us move the layout around, but it doesn't let us move our map around within the layout. And that's what we want to do now. So to do that, we want to activate our map. Now if we go over here, you'll see activate. This is probably another good thing to write down. Okay, if we activate that, now all of a sudden we can move our map and zoom in and out. Okay, like that. So that's feeling a little better. We probably want to do that before we finalize our labels and other things. So get a nice layout, things situated well. Okay, now the other problem is now we have to get back out of this, and to do that, up here you'll see there's a little arrow, and we can click on layout, or the one up one, and now we're back in controlling the layout. So activate, to edit our map, and then this little layout or the arrow, okay, to go back to layout view. I write that one down because that one's also a little obscure. All right, our map is missing a few things because we've zoomed in fairly far. Most folks aren't going to know what the scale of this map is. So we need to add a scale bar. Of course, we're going to use metric, and any of them will do. But when I go to draw it, okay, it's a little hard to see. Black scale bar and a black background. So we need to fix that. We can go to properties. Oh, sorry, that's off the end of the page. Properties. Go to properties to bring up the properties panel for the scale bar. And one of the first things we'll probably want to do is go to drawing and add a background to our scale bar. So we can add a background. Okay. Now, one of the things that's really common, and I don't know why this is the default, but if you take a look, our bars is just right on the edge here. This S is too close. We need to put some padding or a gap around our background so that we can, so this looks better. So you can do that up here with gap. I'm just going to do 0.1 inches. Okay. And that should change immediately. Am I editing the right thing? No. I wonder what I was editing. Okay. Background. Interesting. Okay. I must have clicked on something else. There we go. Notice it doesn't have an apply, but now we have a much better looking scale bar with a selection box that doesn't quite fit it. Okay, the other thing we're going to need, because it's not obvious which way north is, like this is a little big. I think I'll shrink it down a little bit. Is we need a north arrow. There's quite a few options for north arrows. Simpler is usually better. I'll just pick kind of a standard ArcGIS one. Okay, again, we can't see it. That's okay. We know how to add a background and put a little pad on it. Now, some folks' cartography comes easier than others. I kind of get a feel for it after a while that is, whoops, just too big of a north arrow. I'm going to move it up here. And I'm also going to make sure that the edge around, the gap around my map elements, north arrow and the scale bar, is consistent so that they look good. That border looks a little bit big to me. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, maybe like 0.08. Okay. Yeah, it looks a little better. And this is something that if you're like me and you struggle a little bit with the more aesthetic aspects of map making, it's good to find folks that can help you with it. But last step, I think this is looking pretty good. We might want to orient it a little bit more. And you'll find that you can spend many, many hours working on this. You might like to add some labels to Humboldt Bay or something. But for right now, I think that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and we want to export this. So you might think right click export or something, but it's in share and then this export with the arrow. Okay, so that's really a save. Oh look, there's one I just did. All right, so this is my island paradise. Now this is my final output. So I actually want to put this, not in projects video, in my desktop. Lab 1 final, because this is my final output. Now the other thing you want to be careful of is when I came in, this was 96 dpi, which would not be a very good resolution. Desktop printers, the bottom end desktop printers are about 300. So I'm going to do this at 300, but depending on the quality you want, especially if you blow this up to put on a poster, you may want to go to a much higher resolution. Wouldn't go more than about 1000 dpi. Okay, and now if I go into Microsoft Word, I can create a new document and I can insert my picture from my desktop. There's my lab. There's my image. Now, when I put this into Word, it's going to come in kind of a strange mode that's going to be difficult to edit and for me to grade. So you do want to make sure that you wrap it in line with text. Okay, what that means is then when we add text to our document, okay, I can add text above my image, I can add text below it, and then when I add more text, okay, my images will just move with the text. And then I can also put a figure caption below it. And that's how you do it. Have fun.